Say hi. Hello and welcome back to my channel. So, I wasn't gonna actually... Are you watching me talk? He's too cute. I wasn't gonna film this purely because I just thought I've only done one competitive season and I just kind of felt a bit unqualified to be able to kind of give tips and things like that. But then I remembered everyone will only ever experience their first season once. And also it's something that I was really looking into when I was doing my prep for the first time. I was really interested and wanting some guidance, advice from other people that had gone through it, because you only actually know what it's like until you go through it yourself. And I think it's just a bit of a minefield when you are first competing. You don't know what the day is going to be like. You just don't have a clue. So I think just having a little bit of an understanding or some tips and guidance going forward, if you are competing or thinking about competing, is just super helpful. And it'd also be interesting to know if anyone that has done their first season, if they have anything to add to it. So I have actually made a list on my iPad because my brain just doesn't want to work ever. And the first thing that I put is to put in a good off season. So spend time actually building before you even think about going into a prep, because for a lot of people, we kind of see people going through their the first competitive prep, or we see competitors doing it and it looks really glamorized and fun and exciting and all of that. But in order to actually be competitive, if that's what you want to do, you have to actually be able to, showcase the muscle that you've built. It isn't just a case of, I'll just get up on stage and show how shredded I am. It's about actually revealing that muscle that you've worked hard to build over the last however many months to years. So if you haven't done a good off season, a build, even if you've spent time over the last couple of years really, working on programs and progressive overload, then that's absolutely fine. But if you haven't actually done that, then you need to do that beforehand. It is so important. And having more muscle mass makes the prep a lot easier. When you are trying to get lean, if you don't have a lot of muscle, it's very, very hard. You're going to be so depleted. You are anyway, but it's going to be even harder. So yeah, make sure you actually spend time building if you want to be competitive. Another thing is, and this is so important, is practice your posing before even considering before going into prep. Sorry, a lot of people, it's kind of like a last minute thing. Oh shit, I need to do my posing. That is not the case at all. You could have a amazing physique, you could look absolutely phenomenal, but if you don't know how to showcase that physique on stage on the day, you won't place where you want to place or where you should place. So you really need to make sure that you are actually doing your posing beforehand. I have said this in previous videos, but I actually started posing a year and a half before I actually stepped on stage, and it took me a good year, I would say. I mean, I am about as graceful as an elephant. I have 2 left feet. It took me about a year to actually kind of get to grips with it. I knew the basics in terms of the poses, the mandatories, but what people don't place a lot of focus on is the flow of it and making it look seamless, making it look like you are confident. And I think that comes with a lot of time going over the basics and then making it your own. So it's never going to be too early to start practicing your posing, but it is definitely too late if you leave it till you start prep. It is a lot harder than you think. It's very challenging on your muscles, especially if you're expected to hold them for a long period of time. One of my shows, we just kept doing quarter turns, and that is definitely the longest that a lot of people have said that they've seen people be on stage for. And you've got to be prepared to be able to do that and to look confident and to be able to showcase your physique, because if you start to slip on stage, you might start off really great and then you start to get tired, you slip, you're not posing properly, then someone else is going to potentially take that place over you. and you know, you might deserve it. So make sure that you are nailing your posing, and make sure that you are spending time posing in prep as well. So make sure that you're not just doing the basics of, you know, your steps, your meals, all of that. Make sure you are finding time to practice your posing, because what you'll find is your body changes, and certain poses that maybe look good beforehand, when you actually do get a little bit smaller, you maybe don't suit it as much, or you want to start changing things up, and your body does look completely different. So make sure that you are practicing throughout your actual prep. Another really, really important thing is to make sure you actually research the categories. Make sure you're looking at really competitive athletes. Again, if this is something that you wanted to do competitively, you wanted to do it more than once, make sure you are actually looking at the criteria and looking at what you fit best into currently. And what I mean by that is, you may absolutely love wellness, let's say, but you don't currently have the muscle mass for wellness. And that's another huge thing as well. We, as females, we typically hold a lot of body fat on our lower halves, and we think we are a lot bigger, muscular than what we are. And it's because we hold, and a lot more than we think, we hold a lot more body fat on our lower bodies. So for me, I could have definitely gotten smaller on my lower half for my first comp PCA, because they do typically like to be a little bit leaner. So I could have done a little bit more digging on my lower half, and I was already really, really small. I had put the work in beforehand and built, but you know, it's so important to not get that confused. If you are willing to spend 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, plus to get to that stage, then that's absolutely fine. But just make sure you're looking at the criteria and where you best fit. And again, that will probably change the smaller you get. So in my off season, I was typically a lot bigger on my lower half than I was on my upper body. And again, that can be really normal. And I thought that I didn't have a lot of muscle on my upper body, when in actual fact, when I came down, I had a lot less on my lower body than I thought, and a lot more on my upper body than I thought. So again, it can really, really vary when you actually get lean, because you don't know what you look like until you actually get there, unfortunately. But I definitely think a really good place to start, if you've not done it before, is bikini, because it is one of the smallest categories for women. But again, you've got to also think about what you enjoy, what kind of poses you want to be doing. Obviously, they're all different, but it's just something to really consider. It's something to really kind of take your time looking into, because again, you don't want to be getting on stage if you do want to be competitive, and just feel completely out of place if you're going up against like wellness girls and you've got a lot more muscle mass to build. It can be really deflating. So make sure you have a little look at what your kind of competitors look like. Not necessarily your competitors who you'll be competing with on the day, because you won't know, but who you kind of look up to, who you aspire to kind of be like in terms of a competitor. And just make sure you are really realistic in the time frame that you've got. So another thing that is massively important for us girlies is getting your bikini sorted. If you're like me, there will be absolutely no issues with having things like that sorted. I am very much organised when it comes to stuff like that, because it helps me with my anxiety. It causes me too much stress if I don't have things sorted. So if you're like me, you'll have it sorted. But I do know that some people are very chilled out, very laid back, which isn't a bad thing. But you need to make sure that you're not too chilled out to the point where it gets to peak week, you've not got your bikini sorted, and it's just a huge mess. So make sure that, especially if you're somebody that is buying a bikini, you're not renting, make sure that you actually have that sorted. So I think the first actual measurements they ask for when you're getting it made to yourself, personalised, is I think it's around 16 weeks out. So you need to make sure that you have that sorted. You cannot expect a company to kind of just whip it out for you like 2-3 weeks out. You need to make sure that you're giving them enough time, you're giving yourself enough time, and it's sorted. So make sure that if you are somebody that is purchasing a bikini yourself and it's custom made, you have that sorted. Another thing is to have your meal timings and set meals sorted at the start. So for me, obviously I've been somebody that's been tracking for a long time now. I'm a coach myself, and it's something that I find quite easy to do. I know what to implement, or I know how to make meals smart. I know how to really stretch my calories. I know how to get my protein in. So this wasn't an issue for me at all. But I know for some people, having just macros to start with and doing your own food to be tailored around those calories can be quite difficult, and we will often pick things that we would prefer over things that would help us. So make sure that if you are somebody that either doesn't have a coach and you're doing it yourself, or you do have a coach but you only have your macros at first, make sure you are being super smart with them, because it's going to make the process or getting, you know, a couple of weeks out a lot easier if you've already got that kind of nailed. And when it was getting closer to my meal plan, so I had a meal plan at around 8 weeks out, there was a lot of things that I was already having that, you know, it wasn't a huge shock to the system. It wasn't this huge switch up. There was a lot of things that I was really already kind of having, and it just maybe got reduced a little bit. So make sure that you have set meal timings and you have set meals. If you're constantly switching things up on a day-to-day basis, one, it's just going to absolutely fry your brain, and it's something that you don't want to be thinking about. Two, if you go anywhere or have anything that you're doing, you're here, there, everywhere, you're not going to have things sorted, and the chances are you're going to go really hungry, or you're not going to hit those macros. And yeah, it just makes sure that it's sorted. You don't need to think about it. Yes, it's boring, but we're not looking at anything exciting here. It is just the fundamentals and kind of rinse and repeat. So you want to make sure that that is nailed. This one, you have got to be prepared to feel skinny. It doesn't matter how big you are, it doesn't matter how muscular you are, it doesn't matter, you know, you could be the biggest person in the world, but when you start to diet down after being so big, or even just at a healthy body weight, you will feel skinny. That is completely normal. So just be prepared for that. You know, as a female, if you do have boobs, if you've got bum, all of that, it's gonna go. And again, it is normal, but it is something that you need to get your head around. And it can be really challenging at first. I remember when I first, because I have done it wasn't a prep, but it was like a prep for a photo shoot. So it was nowhere near as kind of extreme as what I've done for competition, but I still went quite low, albeit not as low, and I definitely didn't have a lot of muscle at that point. I still kind of experienced the feeling of losing my curves, and this time round I thought that I was kind of well equipped with that, but it's just a lot worse. So I remember getting to a point where my boobs, I've said it before, they were literally just like empty sacks. I know that's gross, but it does happen. It is completely normal, and I'd rather be transparent and you feel normal when it happens. Of course, unless you've got implants, but it does happen. You do feel very, very small, and it's funny because you actually look a lot bigger when you pause because your muscles are popping, but day-to-day life, you will feel very small, you'll lose your curves, and that is just part of it. You know, to get to the level of lean that is required, a lot of that body fat will go, so from your boobs, from your bum, all of that, but it is a part of the process. So it's just trying to prepare yourself for that and understand that it is just part and parcel of it. So that is definitely something that you need to prepare yourself for. Let's have a little look. Another thing is to not compare yourself to somebody else's journey. So there was a few people around me that were doing prep and actually doing the same shows as me, and it's so easy to involve yourself in other people's prep, in how quickly they're coming down, how lean they're getting, what their body's looking like. They've got their glute hamstring tie-in, where's mine? It's so easy to do, but it is the worst thing that you can do. One, because you have no idea what them judges are looking for when you get there. You don't know. And two, what is the point? You you're doing yourself, you are working hard for yourself, and all you can do is show your hard work. And everybody is different, everybody comes in at different times, everyone, you know, everyone's body changes differently at different times. People may hold more body fat on their upper body or their lower body, so just really try and focus on your own journey. If it helps, mute the people that you know that are doing comps that you're going to be doing, or anybody else that's on prep that's maybe triggering you, making you feel like you're lacking or you're behind. Just mute them, especially if you have a coach and they're happy with your progress. You have no need to be looking at anybody else and worrying about what anybody else is doing. And another thing with that as well is it can get kind of thrown at you by other people, and I think they mean well, but again, you just have to kind of just don't give in to it. So people that you know may know somebody else that's doing your show or competing or whatever. Just try and just be like, yeah, sweet. Just try not to involve yourself in that, because again, it can be very triggering, and it's just causing unnecessary stress, and it's just not what you need. So just do your own, focus on your own journey, focus on your own progress, and that's all you need to focus on. Okay, so closer to the time you want to go to sleep early, you probably will anyway, and you want to have your last meal close to bedtime. So you'll probably find that your body just naturally goes into a bit of a routine. I am not an early bird at all, but during prep, and it wasn't even that I was waking up hungry or anything like that, I think my body was just in such a solid routine, and obviously I was going to bed early, that I was just up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, which is pretty unheard of with me, and I was actually feeling more fresh. And you want to, of course, you're really spacing those meals out, you're being smart with them, but it gets to a point where you can only stretch them so far. That again is part and parcel of it. So if you are having your last meal really early, you're going to really struggle in the last couple of hours. You're going to struggle, that's all I'm going to say. So you want to have your last meal relatively close to when you want to kind of shut off and start to wind down. Obviously you don't want it too close that it's going to disturb your sleep, but you want to make sure that it's not too far away that you're going to bed and you're absolutely starving. You don't want it to be affecting your sleep. So it's just really important to look at where you're placing your meals and where you're having your last meal. Again, if you have a coach, then this is something that they'll probably go over with you, but it's just something to bear in mind. But I think naturally you will probably figure that out yourself. And another thing is to embrace the sucky days, because you will have days where it sucks, and you will also have days where you film in and you're just flying. And honestly, I didn't have like it wasn't linear. It wasn't like I had really great days and then it just dropped off and it just went to crap. It was just peaks and troughs. So I remember, I think I had my first kind of real hard day at like 6 weeks out, and I was like, oh my god, this is not good. And then days after that I was fine, and then it wouldn't be for another couple of days that I would have that. So it's not going to be, you don't just, again, everyone's different, but I found that I didn't just hit a brick wall and that was it. It was just completely suck for the rest of the time. You will have days where you are maybe more active, or you've got rest day calories, or whatever it may be, but I always find that the sucky days followed with a new low. So it's something that you've just got to prepare yourself for, and you've just got to embrace it, because ultimately we decided that we were going to do this crazy sport, and those sucky days just are part and parcel of it. You will get them. You will never be able to get that lean and not have days where you struggle. So you've just got to embrace it. I actually didn't realise how many points that I have on here. So one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give, and to be honest, it's not really something that I struggle with, but I am in a group with, there's like thousands of competitors, from pros, judges, all of that, to people that are just starting out or thinking about competing in the future. And there's a lot of negativity when it comes to partners, when it comes to family members, friends who don't understand the process and can get quite concerned. I'm very lucky in the fact that I have the most supportive partner. He took me to all of my shows. He was just there 24/7. When I was having meal prep, he'd have meal prep, and he just made sure that I was on the ball with it. So I'm very, very lucky with that. But I know that some people can have really difficult times when it comes to prep and people close to them not understanding. And I think the best piece of advice that I can give is to just really try and shut it out, whether it's people that you don't know, maybe it's not being so supportive, or like I say, friends, family, whoever, who you would expect to support you. But I think with it is such an extreme sport, and people can be quite concerned, you know, when you are really getting thin. Some people really struggle with like how much their face comes in, and yeah, it's just one of those things where you have to really explain that this is a choice. It is an extreme sport. I don't expect you to understand, but to maybe just ask them not to comment. Again, I can't really give too much advice on this because I haven't experienced it myself, and I am very lucky that I haven't, but I do know that a lot of people do experience it. So I think it's just really trying to surround yourself with people that do get you, that do understand why you're doing it, what you're doing, because it just massively empowers you, lifts you up, and just makes you feel a lot better. So I would definitely recommend, if you don't have anybody around you that gets it or does that kind of thing, to join those support groups or those groups of, so I don't know what it is, the one that I'm in on Facebook, but it is a huge community of girls, and it just makes you feel really supported and lifted up. So I definitely recommend doing something like that. Again, just like people that you know are on the same journey, without kind of, you know, trying to compare your journey. It's nice to be able to have those people to talk to. I know that I've got a couple of girls that I went through prep with, and they just get you. So yeah, it's really important to tune out that noise, tune out the negativity, and just focus on what you are doing. And you know your reason why you're doing it. You know that it is an extreme sport, but you're okay. Make sure that you are okay. And those people are just, they're just expressing concern, but as long as you explain to them, you know, this is what I'm choosing to do, I'm fine, then that's all you can do. Again, another, I say this, they're all important. Don't become a recluse. So I actually done a lot more in prep than I thought I would. And again, that goes hand in hand with people that get you. So me and Greg would stay over places, and we would do nice things together. If there were nights out, I would go on them. Obviously, you're not going to be able to drink. You're not going to be able to have meals out. That is just a given. But you can still be social. Those things don't require you to, you know, you don't have to have the food, you don't need to have the drink to be social and be present in those times. And I think I actually enjoyed those social occasions a lot more because of that reason, because I was a lot more present, I didn't have any alcohol, I just enjoyed them a lot more. And I think as well, like, you just have a cut-off period where you're like, yeah, I've enjoyed my night, let's go. And it does make it more enjoyable. As much as you think it's going to be a challenge, yes, it's not nice if people are having nice meals around you and whatever, but you know, again, you've just got to remember that this is a choice. And if you want to have food, take your meal prep. If you want to eat beforehand, take some Pepsi Max or whatever it is, and just enjoy yourself, just be present, because you will find it a much more enjoyable experience if you are still social, if you don't kind of shut yourself off, because you've got to think it's a very long time to do that. And if this is something that you are wanting to do and you want to be competitive, it's something that you're going to be doing very frequently. So if every time you do a prep you are a recluse, you're just going to hate your life. So you want to make it as enjoyable as possible. But again, with that, you've got to make sure that you are prepared. So yeah, make sure that you are, I don't know what's going on with the washing machine. Make sure that you don't kind of shut yourself off. Obviously, when it gets closer to your show date, you're probably not going to have the energy. And that's something that I did struggle with. I couldn't make plans because I was just so drained. If I was at work, then I'd just want to die out, or I'd have to train. But again, just make sure you're doing things that you can. So me and my best friend would FaceTime instead of me driving around and sitting there and whatever. We would do things like that. So just make sure that you are staying present and you know, you're not cutting yourself off from the rest of the world. And I also found that with alcohol, I have a completely different mindset now. I don't really like to drink so much. I definitely don't go out and kind of binge like I did before. I don't go crazy with it. I'll have a couple of drinks and that's me done, and I enjoy myself a lot more. So it does really, it opens your eyes to how much better things are without alcohol. And yeah, I think you end up seeing it in a different light. Yeah, you'll probably have a couple of days out or drinks and things like that when you come off prep, but I do think it just makes you see it a little bit differently. Again, as I was saying before, with the whole make sure that you're prepared, and then also teamed with not being a recluse, you really need to make sure that you have everything sorted. And I think this is one of the reasons why people probably can't be asked to do things, because you need to take like 1,000,001 things. The amount of stuff that I had to take for one night away was ridiculous. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was. Because again, I got to enjoy myself. I didn't feel like I couldn't do anything. I still enjoyed it and I was there and I was present. I just had to do a little bit extra. So I had to take my meal prep. I had to make sure that I had meals for that evening if I was traveling. Had to make sure that I had everything for the next day. All of that, it needs to be sorted. So get yourself like a prep bag or whatever so that you can take all your meals and everything sorted and set. It does not mean that you shouldn't do things. You just need to be organised. Yes, be prepared to take about 5,000 bags away with you, but it's so worth it. So these are things where you're kind of getting close to like peak week and, you know, show day. So don't freak out if your bikini hasn't arrived when you think it's going to arrive. So for me, I think it was like a couple of days out when my bikini arrived, and I was freaking out because I didn't know when to expect it. Obviously, it takes a long time to make, and if you're sending your measurements out at like 4 weeks out, think about how many girls they've got to make bikinis for, they've got to send off for. It's a lot. And if you are getting your bikini custom made from a company that's well known, well established, just trust that they will send it out to you. If you do have any issues, obviously feel free to message them. Don't bombard them. They will get it to you when they can. But honestly, just don't freak out, because that is definitely something that I did. Again, to ease my anxiety, I'm very organised. I'm very chaotic, but I'm very organised in those situations, just because it does massively help with anxiety. I like to know that everything's sorted and set, but that was something that I did really freak out about. But again, just make sure that you obviously communicate with them. You've done what I said before and got it sorted in a good amount of time so that they can send it off to you. And just know that they know their shit, they'll send it when you need it. And it's really exciting. When you get it, you're like, oh. But yeah, try not to freak out about it. If you've done what is needed and they said they will send it out when they will, and like I say, they're an established company, they'll get it to you. Don't freak out. Make sure you take some sheets with you if you are staying over. I would massively recommend staying over, because you don't want to be traveling. I mean, if you can, then that's fine, but you don't want to be traveling on the day of your show. There is a lot of things that you've got to kind of take into consideration. When are you going to do your hair and makeup? You know, how long is it going to take you to actually get there? Do you need to do your second coat of tan? When do you need to have your meals? And also with that, there's things out of your control, like traffic, all of that, and it's just extra stress. You do not want to be putting stress on your body. Peak week is about just pulling things back and really trying to eliminate any stress, or as much as possible. So if you are traveling on the actual day of your show, if it can't be helped, then it's one of those things, but make sure you set off in enough time. But if you can help it, I would definitely recommend staying over, because again, you're in that place. That's something that can just chill you out, and you can just kind of go about your day and have more of a chill day, which is exactly what's needed. It's a stressful day as is if you are doing it for the first time. Even if you're not, it's, you know, you give a shit and you want to do well, so it can be stressful, but you want to try and eliminate that as much as possible. But with that, if you are staying over, take some bed sheets, because obviously if you're doing your tan on the night, it's messy. And another thing with that is, don't faff on with it. Get your tan done and don't faff on with it. But if you mess it up, don't freak out. They will sort it the next day. I remember my first day, I got my first coat of tan and I was trying to be so careful. I went to the toilet, thought, fab, nailed that, and it was all down my leg. And I'd ruined it, or so I thought I'd ruined it. And then that was causing me stress. Realistically, when you get there, they'll sort it out. They're not going to let you go on stage with a big streak. So yeah, even if you do mess it up, try not to faff with it, but even if you do mess it up, don't stress, they will sort it on the day. And again, if you get your second coat of tan and you dribble or you spill something on you or whatever, they'll sort it out, so there's just no need to stress. Hair and makeup. This is something that stressed me out to hell. It's so nice to get your hair and makeup done, especially when it is your first show. You want to kind of enjoy the process of being pampered. Who doesn't? We love it. But, and especially as well if you're not someone that's good at hair and makeup, I am very fortunate in the fact that I love doing makeup. I actually prefer to do it myself. And that's one thing I was freaking out about, is I don't really like getting my makeup done. I like to do it myself. So getting somebody else to do it, I was like, I'm gonna hate it, because you know your own face. So that's another thing. But yeah, I booked in for my hair and makeup just because, again, it was something that, one, I didn't know what to expect, so I just wanted it to kind of be out of the way, take out of my hands. I didn't know the colours and things like that. I didn't know how dark I was going to go, so I just let somebody else do it. But with that being said, that caused me stress. If you are somebody that is good at doing hair, good at doing makeup, I would just advise to do it yourself. Maybe if you want to just have your first comp where you get it done, then again, that's absolutely fine. But again, with that, you don't get to choose, sorry, when you get it done. I was literally the last girl to get my hair and makeup done, and the stress that I was feeling because everyone else was packing away, everyone else was done. I couldn't get any nice photos, I couldn't chill out. I was rushed when it came to actually doing a pump up and all of that. So I would highly recommend, one, either trying to book an early slot if possible for your hair and makeup, request an early slot. Two, doing it yourself. Even if you want to get your makeup done and you do your hair yourself, whatever you want to do, but yeah, you don't get to choose, or I didn't get to choose when I got it done, and I was the last person and it just sent me west. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And if you are going to do it, practice. Make sure you get a foundation that's dark enough. Make sure you get a foundation that isn't gonna, or powders and things that aren't gonna give you flashback, all of that. But yeah, if you know your stuff with makeup, you'll be absolutely fine. There's no kind of like magic to it. It's just your makeup, but a little bit darker. A lot of people do it themselves, but again, it's just something to bear in mind that you don't get to choose when you do it. So if you are someone that likes to be organised, you want to be able to chill, then I would definitely recommend either requesting an early appointment or doing it yourself. And that just comes to stage time as well. So again, because I was very rushed and we kind of knew the layout, you know who's going on and what the crack is in terms of the time slots that you have. You don't know what's going to actually happen on the day though. When I did my first show, there was a category that got cancelled. I don't know if it was just that people didn't turn up or whatever, but it got cancelled, and that then meant that I was on a little bit earlier. We obviously thought we had a lot more time, but just to give you a bit of a run through on how it works when you are competing on the day, you are, instead of thinking, oh, this category is before me, I can start to pump up, then you actually are on side of stage when they are on stage. So the category before you want to be pumped up and sorted and ready, because you will be on the side of the stage waiting for them to be judged, all of that, and then they will come off and yous will go straight on. And that's something that I didn't know. So we obviously thought, oh, we've got a couple of categories before us, let's get a pump on in this time, let's do this. And in actual fact, when we thought we would get a pump on, we were at the side of stage. So that was a bit of a mess. And it's not something that you want to be doing. You want to make sure that you give yourself enough time. Obviously it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but if you're flapping before you go on stage, it's going to show. So you want to make sure that you are nice and chilled, you give yourself enough time to get a pump on, see your coach if needs be, all of that. So yeah, you just want to be as chilled as possible. So make sure that you're looking at the kind of layout of the day, who's on, and give yourself a couple of categories before to start your pump up and all of that. And you want to be there, you want to be in the venue for that period of time, because I know one of the girls that I competed with the first time, the second time she actually was outside when she needed to be on the side of stage, and it's just not what you want to be doing. You want to make sure that you're looking at what's going on around you. You want to be looking at who's on and where you're at in terms of the day, because you don't want to be missing your category. And that's another thing that happened. Her partner missed his first category, so they won't wait forever for you. So yeah, make sure that you know the layout of the day, keeping an eye, keeping a check on the time and who's on, what's going on, just so you know how to plan for the rest of the day. Because like I say, things can change. You may have a huge category before you may have a category that's really, really small and they're not on stage as long. So with that as well, beforehand, just make sure you're present with the other girls. So I actually got to know a couple of the girls through obviously the tanning process and just being backstage with them, and it was so lovely. And the girls that I speak to now, so honestly, make sure you're actually present with the other girls. I know everyone is different, and it's something that you may find as well. I'm very social and I like to chat. I like to feel that kind of like comforts me. It makes me feel a little bit more at ease just chatting to the other girls when they're like, oh my god, I'm nervous, and you're like, oh my god, I'm nervous too, and you just chill each other out. If one of you is flapping, you chill each other out. If the other one is, flapping about a tan or whatever, it's just nice to have that little bit of a community, and you just kind of egg each other on and you support each other. With that, there will be people that just like to be in their own bubble, and that is completely fine. Everyone's different, but just try and embrace it, get along with the girls, kind of get yourself amongst it, and you never know, you may make some friends for life. So yeah, definitely get along with the girls or speak to the girls, just kind of embrace that. Because again, there was girls that I would then see the following week and the week after doing other competitions, and to have people that are like familiar faces, it just makes the experience a lot more enjoyable and you're just a lot more chilled. So I definitely recommend that. But with that as well, make sure that you're not too kind of immersed in what they're doing, whether they're going to do their posing or they're going to do a check-in or they're having their meal now or they're pumping up this way. Make sure that if you do have a coach, you're following what they're giving you. They know your body, they know you, they've given you that for a reason. So try not to kind of immerse yourself too much in what other people are doing. Yes, you want to be social and kind of get amongst it with the girls and enjoy it, but don't worry too much about what they're doing and the timings of what they've got going on. Take plenty of photos. You will be surprised at how little you remember, how much you take in. It is a whirlwind. So definitely take photos, but you want to be present. So I would definitely advise, if you've got friends, family, partners, whoever there, get them to get some footage, get them to take some photos, get them to record whatever, because it's something that when I think about, it was just an absolute whirlwind. I don't really remember a lot of it. I remember kind of being on the side of stage, flapping and then just getting on, but I don't really remember getting on stage. So it just is very much a blur. And I know a lot of people will say that, but until you actually experience it, you don't realise how much of a blur it is. You've got to think as well, you've spent however many weeks dieting down, you are so depleted, your body has had these high calories and then it's gone from like high to absolutely nothing on show day. You're probably super dehydrated, you're nervous, the adrenaline's kicking in, there's a lot going on. So I would definitely make sure that other people take footage for you, and it's such a nice thing to be able to look back on. And again, if you wanted to do it competitively, it's good to look at, what could I change here, or even just looking back and being like, this is my first prep, this is now, and seeing those kind of comparisons. So definitely get footage. You want to be present, so make sure other people are doing that for you as well. expect to mess up. It's not going to be perfect, trust me, and it probably won't be if you're anything like me. At the 3 shows that I done, well, four stages, my leg was shaking like a shit dog. One thing to note is, if you're nervous, other people, unless you are literally, your full body is shaking, they're not going to notice. Just fake it till you make it. I don't know what happens when you get on stage, but it's just like, right, come on. And if you do feel that you're getting nervous, just have a prep talk with yourself. Just be like, come on, girl, we've got it. We've worked hard for this. Let's go. And it just kind of sorts you out. You can't really see the crowd. I thought that I would be somebody that didn't want to see anyone that I knew, but I actually was looking for people that I knew in the crowd just for a little bit of comfort. So that's just going to be something that you'll figure out on the day, whether it makes you more nervous to see people that you know, or whether you need that familiar face in the crowd being like, let's go, girl. So that'll be something that you figure out on the day. But you just want to make sure that, obviously going through all your poses and everything like that, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. If your legs shake, if you stumble a little bit, just keep a smile on your face, try and keep as confident as you can and pull it back. It's not going to be perfect, and you'll probably, in years to come, I'll even do the same, look back and be like, oh, look at me there, like I was so nervous, look at my posing, to now. But it's just one of those things, you've got to go through it. And when nerves kind of kicking in, when there's adrenaline, all of that, it's a lot. It's very nerve-wracking to get up on stage and do that. So it just hats off to people that do it anyway. I remember when I first started prep, I want to say it was probably like maybe 6 weeks out, where I was actually like, yeah, get me on stage. Before that, I thought, what am I doing? This thought is knocking me ill. Why am I getting up on stage? This is the last thing that's just not me, to get up on stage and be in front of a big crowd. Just not me at all. But when you're ready, you're like, get me up there. But yeah, you will mess up, and that is fine. It is so normal. It's to be expected. You're not perfect. And then last thing I would say is, don't go crazy on your meal when you're off stage. Don't go crazy. you will, but just be prepared to feel sick as hell, because obviously when you've been prepping for that long, you want something nice, and you can't wait to just stick your head in a big dirty greasy meal, but it will make you feel really, really sick. So make sure you've got plenty of electrolytes. So I was having coconut water and it knocked me ill. Don't know why, just didn't like it at all. So then we switched to smart waters. But make sure you are really hydrating yourself before you go into stuffing your face, and just be really mindful that your body hasn't had anything like this in such a long time. So as much as you think you're going to be able to stomach it, you probably won't. And then even when you do have it, you're probably going to feel fairly sick. I felt sick for days after, really, really sick. So just be aware of that, because it does happen. And I wasn't going to include this, but I'm going to, is my advice would be, don't just do the one show. If you're going to graft, work hard and get to that point where you're lean, do a couple of shows. Your first show, you're going to be nervous. You're not going to get kind of the full experience in terms of being present, because the nerves are just going to take over, the adrenaline. When you've done that first show, you'll find that you are a lot more prepared, you've been through it, you know what to expect, and it is a lot more enjoyable. You can just chill out, and it doesn't matter how much advice someone gives you, because you've got to go through it, and it'll probably be a bit chaotic to start with. And then after that, you have a little bit more experience, and you're like, right, I know the crack now. I can chill out, I can do this here, I'll change this here. And it just makes the ones after that a little bit more enjoyable. So if you base your kind of whole prep experience and whether you want to compete again just off of one show alone, I would really, really recommend doing do a few stages, a few different federations as well. With that, you'll probably find that you definitely will find that they actually require or look for different things in different federations. So as an example, the girl that Reva, who I competed with the first show, she won me, she won overall. Then when we done a different federation, I came before her, and it just shows that, you know, different federations look for different things. So you may not do so well in one federation and it really disappoint you and think, oh well, you know, why didn't I do so good, and think it's not for you. But then you may go into a different federation and absolutely ace it. So it's just really good to kind of see where you fit within federations and what different federations look like, how they're kind of ran, because they all are ran differently, all of that. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to compete, make sure you do a couple of different stages, a couple of different federations. I wish that I'd done a few more, but just with how long I'd been prepping for and the stages that I did do, I'd done 4, was enough for me to kind of get a feel for it, have that experience on stage, know that I loved it, but also because I was up against, I'd done the universe and then I'd done an open, I was up against girls that were very experienced, had a lot more muscle mass than me. So we knew, actually, in order to be competitive, we know we've got the information that we need in terms of pulling back and then working on it. So that was enough kind of experience for me to be able to say, right, okay, this is where we're sitting at, you know, compared to those other girls. Let's pull back and let's work on that. So when I go back into it, I will definitely be doing more federations, more stages, and I'm excited to do that, because again, you don't know what they're looking for. And there's also federations that are natural. So again, if you're a natural athlete, you're probably going to do a little bit better, as opposed to a federation that is not tested and has assisted athletes, because again, you know, sizing is going to be different, all of that experience. So yeah, it's just something to really look into. And again, just how the ran are all completely different. It is a bit of a minefield, and it's always nice to just have a little bit of an insight in what it looks like, what would be good in terms of prep, how you need to get organised, all of that. So I just thought I would share that with you. Hopefully it is helpful. It's definitely things that I would be taking into, you know, my next season, next year, which I'm excited about. But yeah, it's just something to kind of make note of, and hopefully, you know, you've got your own little kind of tips and tricks when it comes to your next competitive season as well. So let me know if you found this useful. But yeah, I will see you in the next video.